What if one of the most powerful daily habits for protecting your brain was not hidden inside an expensive supplement bottle, a complicated medical program, or some extreme wellness trend? What if it was already sitting quietly inside your kitchen cabinet right now? Most people never think twice about cinnamon. They sprinkle it on desserts, add it to coffee during the holidays, or mix it into oatmeal without realizing that scientists have become deeply interested in this ancient spice for reasons far beyond flavor. Researchers are now studying cinnamon for its potential effects on blood sugar regulation, inflammation, circulation, insulin sensitivity, oxidative stress, cognitive function, and even certain biological processes associated with brain aging. And here is the part that surprises many people. The amount being studied is incredibly small. Not tablespoons, not giant doses, not extreme supplementation, just around 1/8 of a teaspoon a day. That tiny amount may help support some of the most important systems involved in protecting the brain as we age. Now think carefully about this for a moment. Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went there? Have you ever misplaced your keys, forgotten a familiar name, struggled to focus after eating a heavy meal, or experienced that frustrating mental fog in the afternoon where your brain feels slow and tired? Most people laugh these things off and simply call it getting older. But the reality is much deeper than that. Your brain is extremely sensitive to inflammation, unstable blood sugar, poor circulation, oxidative stress, sleep disruption, chronic stress hormones, and insulin resistance. In fact, some researchers have even referred to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes because of the strong relationship between chronically elevated blood sugar, insulin dysfunction, and the degeneration of brain cells over time. This does not mean Alzheimer's disease is literally diabetes, but it does highlight how deeply connected metabolic health is to brain health. Your brain is one of the most energy-demanding organs in the human body. Although it makes up only a small percentage of total body weight, it uses a tremendous amount of glucose and oxygen every single day. The problem begins when glucose regulation becomes unstable. Every time blood sugar rises too sharply after meals, especially highly processed meals filled with refined carbohydrates and sugar, the body experiences a wave of oxidative stress and inflammation. Over months and years, these repeated spikes begin damaging tissues throughout the body, and the brain is particularly vulnerable. One of the areas most affected is the hippocampus. The hippocampus is one of the brain's primary memory centers. It plays a major role in learning, memory formation, emotional regulation, and spatial navigation. Unfortunately, the hippocampus is also highly sensitive to inflammation and blood sugar instability. When glucose remains elevated too often, harmful processes begin taking place. One of those processes is called glycation. Glycation occurs when excess sugar molecules attach to proteins and fats inside the body. Think of it as a kind of slow internal damage. Over time, these sugar-related compounds create stiffness, inflammation, and dysfunction in tissues. Blood vessels become less flexible. Cells communicate less efficiently. Oxidative stress rises. And delicate structures inside the brain begin suffering from the cumulative effects. Tiny blood vessels that nourish neurons may become damaged. Inflammation increases. Cellular signaling becomes less efficient. The communication pathways between brain cells can start slowing down. This is one reason why maintaining healthy blood sugar may be one of the most important long-term strategies for supporting brain function and healthy aging. And this is where cinnamon becomes incredibly fascinating. Cinnamon contains natural plant compounds called polyphenols. Polyphenols are powerful antioxidant substances found in many plant foods. These compounds may help support insulin sensitivity, which means they may assist the body in using glucose more efficiently, instead of allowing sugar to remain elevated in the bloodstream for long periods. Improved insulin signaling helps move glucose into the cells where it can be used for energy. That matters because chronically elevated glucose places stress on nearly every system in the body. Researchers have also observed that cinnamon may help slow stomach emptying slightly. Now, this may sound like a small detail, but it can have important effects. When food leaves the stomach more gradually, glucose enters the bloodstream at a slower pace. This may help reduce sharp blood sugar spikes after meals, and reducing those spikes may help reduce inflammatory stress on the brain and blood vessels. Many people experience dramatic swings in energy throughout the day without realizing how closely these changes are connected to glucose fluctuations. One moment they feel energized, the next they feel tired, irritable, foggy, shaky, or intensely hungry again. These rapid highs and lows create stress inside the body, and over time, they may contribute to insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. Cinnamon appears to support a more stable metabolic environment, but researchers are interested in cinnamon for another reason that has attracted enormous attention in the scientific community. Certain compounds inside cinnamon are being studied for how they interact with proteins involved in neurodegenerative disease. In Alzheimer's disease, abnormal protein accumulation is one of the major hallmarks observed in the brain. Researchers have specifically examined amyloid plaques and tau proteins because these structures are associated with neuronal dysfunction and degeneration. Some laboratory research suggests that compounds found in cinnamon may influence these processes. Now it is extremely important to understand something clearly. Cinnamon is not a cure for Alzheimer's disease. It is not a miracle treatment. It is not a replacement for medical care. But what makes this area of research so exciting is the possibility that one simple food may support multiple pathways associated with brain aging at the same time. Better blood sugar regulation, improved insulin sensitivity, reduced oxidative stress, healthier circulation, lower inflammatory burden, potential support for neuronal communication. That combination is very significant because the body does not work through isolated systems. Everything is connected. Blood vessels affect the brain. Inflammation affects memory. Sleep affects glucose regulation. Stress hormones affect circulation. Metabolic health affects cognitive function. The body operates as an integrated network, and often the most powerful strategies are the ones that gently support multiple systems at once. That is one reason why lifestyle medicine continues gaining attention around the world. Small daily habits repeated consistently over long periods can dramatically influence health outcomes. Most people search for one giant breakthrough while ignoring the power of tiny repeated actions. But physiology responds strongly to consistency. A small daily habit maintained for years may influence the body more than occasional extreme efforts. Now let us talk about the type of cinnamon that researchers and health professionals often recommend for regular, long-term use. There are different varieties of cinnamon. The two most common are cassia cinnamon and Ceylon cinnamon. Cassia cinnamon is the variety most frequently sold in grocery stores. It has a stronger, sharper flavor and is commonly used in commercial baking. However, cassia cinnamon also contains significantly higher levels of a natural compound called coumarin. In excessive amounts, coumarin may place stress on the liver in some individuals. This is why many experts recommend Ceylon cinnamon for regular daily use. Ceylon cinnamon is often called true cinnamon. It has a milder, smoother, more delicate taste, and it contains much lower levels of coumarin. For long-term daily habits, Ceylon cinnamon is generally considered the preferred option. Now here is something else that surprises people. More is not necessarily better. Human physiology rarely works that way. Many people assume that if a little helps, then huge amounts must help even more. But the body often responds best to gentle, consistent support. Around 1/8 of a teaspoon daily is commonly discussed in research and wellness practices. That tiny amount may be enough to support beneficial metabolic effects without overwhelming the system. And because it is such a small amount, this habit becomes extremely practical. You do not need complicated routines. You do not need expensive powders or capsules. You do not need elaborate protocols. You can simply incorporate cinnamon into foods and drinks you already enjoy. You could sprinkle it onto oatmeal, add it to plain yogurt, mix it into kefir, blend it into smoothies, use it in chia pudding, add it to berries, stir it into tea or warm water. Some people even add a small amount to coffee. The key is consistency. Small repeated actions matter. Now I want you to pay attention to something very important once you begin using it regularly. Observe how you feel, watch your energy after meals, notice your mental clarity, pay attention to cravings, monitor your afternoon fatigue, look at your focus and concentration. The relationship between blood sugar and brain performance is incredibly powerful. When glucose swings become less dramatic, many people notice improvements in energy stability and mental sharpness. Again, this is not magic. No single spice can compensate for poor lifestyle habits. The brain requires comprehensive support. Movement matters, sleep matters, circulation matters, stress management matters, nutrition matters, hydration matters, sunlight matters, social connection matters. Everything works together. Exercise, for example, has profound effects on the brain. Physical activity increases circulation and oxygen delivery. It helps improve insulin sensitivity. It supports healthy blood vessel function. And it stimulates the production of a remarkable substance called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF is often described as fertilizer for the brain. It helps support neuronal growth, repair, adaptability, and resilience. Higher levels of BDNF are associated with better learning and memory. Regular exercise also helps reduce inflammation and improves mood-regulating neurotransmitters. Even simple walking after meals may significantly improve blood sugar control. Sleep is equally important. Many people underestimate how essential sleep is for brain maintenance. During deep sleep, the brain activates cleansing systems that help remove metabolic waste products. One of these systems is called the glymphatic system. You can think of it like a nighttime cleaning crew for the brain. While you sleep, cerebrospinal fluid helps wash away waste materials that accumulate during waking hours. Poor sleep disrupts this process. Over time, inadequate sleep is associated with increased inflammation, insulin resistance, cognitive decline, and impaired memory. Chronic stress is another major issue. Modern life places many people into a constant state of sympathetic nervous system activation. Stress hormones remain elevated, cortisol rises, blood sugar becomes less stable, inflammation increases, sleep quality declines, and the brain suffers. The human nervous system was never designed for nonstop stimulation, digital overload, and constant emotional tension. This is why calming practices matter. Deep breathing, prayer, meditation, nature exposure, relaxation, healthy relationships, laughter, quiet moments. These are not luxuries. They are biological necessities. Healthy circulation is another crucial piece of the puzzle. Your brain depends on a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients. Every heartbeat sends blood carrying oxygen, glucose, vitamins, minerals, and protective compounds into delicate brain tissue. But circulation can become impaired through inflammation, inactivity, smoking, poor nutrition, high blood pressure, and metabolic dysfunction. Protecting blood vessels is essential for long-term cognitive health. This is another reason why blood sugar control matters so much. Excess glucose damages blood vessels over time. The tiny vessels inside the brain are especially vulnerable. Stable glucose levels support vascular health, and vascular health supports brain health. Now think about how remarkable this is. One tiny daily habit may help support some of the exact systems most associated with healthy aging. Blood sugar regulation, inflammation control, oxidative stress reduction, circulation, insulin sensitivity, brain energy metabolism. This is what makes nutritional physiology so fascinating. Foods are not simply calories. They contain biological information. Plants contain thousands of natural compounds that interact with the body in complex ways. Many of these compounds evolved as protective mechanisms for the plants themselves, and when humans consume them, they may influence inflammation, detoxification pathways, vascular function, immune activity, and cellular communication. Cinnamon is one example. Turmeric is another. Berries contain powerful anthocyanins. Green tea contains catechins. Garlic contains sulfur compounds. Olive oil contains polyphenols. Nature is filled with substances that interact with human physiology. Unfortunately, modern diets often remove many of these protective compounds while increasing ultra-processed foods that destabilize metabolism. Highly refined carbohydrates, sugar-filled beverages, processed oils, excessive fast food, chronic overeating, and sedentary lifestyles create metabolic stress. This stress accumulates silently. Years later, people wonder why energy declines, inflammation rises, memory worsens, and chronic disease develops. The body responds to what we repeatedly do. That is why consistency matters more than intensity. A healthy lifestyle is not built in one day. It is built through daily patterns, tiny decisions repeated thousands of times. One healthier meal, one better night of sleep, one walk after dinner, one less sugary drink, one small stress-reducing practice, 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon. Over time, these actions accumulate, and eventually the body reflects those patterns. Now let us discuss inflammation more deeply, because this topic is central to understanding brain aging. Inflammation itself is not bad. In fact, inflammation is part of the body's natural defense system. When you get injured or infected, inflammation helps protect and repair tissues. The problem occurs when inflammation becomes chronic. Chronic low-grade inflammation may persist silently for years. It can damage blood vessels, interfere with insulin signaling, stress mitochondria, and disrupt cellular communication. Inside the brain, chronic inflammation may affect neuronal function and contribute to cognitive decline. Oxidative stress plays a major role here. Oxidative stress occurs when unstable molecules, called free radicals, overwhelm the body's antioxidant defenses. These unstable molecules can damage proteins, DNA, cell membranes, and mitochondria. The brain is particularly vulnerable because it uses so much oxygen and contains high amounts of delicate fatty tissue. This is why antioxidant-rich foods attract so much scientific interest. Cinnamon contains antioxidants that may help neutralize oxidative stress. Again, no single food solves everything, but supporting the body's defense systems consistently may influence long-term health trajectories. Now imagine this process over decades. Slightly better glucose control, slightly lower inflammation, slightly healthier circulation, slightly better insulin sensitivity, slightly improved oxidative balance. At first, these changes may seem small, but compounded over years, small physiological advantages may create meaningful differences. This is how preventive health often works. The benefits accumulate gradually. People frequently expect dramatic overnight transformations, but the human body usually changes slowly. Disease develops slowly. Healing and protection also occur gradually. The danger is that many unhealthy processes remain invisible until significant damage has already occurred. Insulin resistance can exist for years before diagnosis. Inflammation can rise quietly. Blood vessels can stiffen silently. Brain changes can begin long before symptoms become obvious. This is why early supportive habits matter so much. Protecting the brain is not something that begins after severe decline appears. It begins decades earlier, and some of the most effective interventions are surprisingly simple. Movement, nutrition, sleep, stress reduction, stable blood sugar, healthy relationships, purpose, sunlight, hydration, cognitive stimulation. These factors influence each other continuously. For example, poor sleep increases insulin resistance. Insulin resistance increases inflammation. Inflammation worsens circulation. Poor circulation affects the brain. Stress hormones worsen sleep. Lack of movement worsens glucose control. The systems are interconnected. Likewise, positive changes reinforce one another. Better sleep improves glucose regulation. Exercise improves mood and circulation. Stable blood sugar improves energy. Lower stress supports sleep quality. Healthy food supports inflammation control. Everything works together. This is one reason why simple habits can become powerful. They influence multiple systems simultaneously. Now let us talk about meals specifically. Many people consume breakfasts that create immediate blood sugar spikes. Sugary cereals, pastries, sweetened coffee drinks, white bread, processed snacks. Within a short time, glucose rises rapidly. Insulin surges, then energy crashes, hunger returns, cravings increase, mental clarity declines. This cycle repeats throughout the day. By contrast, meals containing protein, healthy fats, fiber, and supportive compounds may produce more stable energy. Adding cinnamon to carbohydrate-containing meals may further support glucose stability. Oatmeal with cinnamon and berries, plain yogurt with cinnamon and chia seeds, kefir with nuts and cinnamon, smoothies containing fiber and protein. These combinations may help create steadier energy patterns. Fiber is especially important. Fiber slows digestion and helps regulate glucose absorption. Unfortunately, many modern diets are severely lacking in fiber. Vegetables, legumes, seeds, nuts, and whole foods provide essential nutrients that support gut health and metabolic health. And gut health may also influence brain health. Scientists now refer to the gut-brain axis because the digestive system and nervous system communicate continuously. Gut bacteria influence inflammation, neurotransmitter production, immune signaling, and even mood. A healthier gut environment may support healthier brain function. This is why fermented foods such as kefir and yogurt attract so much attention. They may help support microbial diversity inside the gut. Again, the systems are connected. Now, another important point. Hydration matters far more than many people realize. Even mild dehydration can affect concentration, mood, and cognitive performance. The brain depends on fluid balance. Blood circulation depends on hydration. Cellular communication depends on proper electrolyte balance. People often consume large amounts of caffeine and sugary drinks while neglecting water intake. Simple hydration habits can significantly affect mental clarity. Sunlight exposure also plays a role. Natural light helps regulate circadian rhythms. Healthy circadian rhythms support hormone balance, sleep quality, metabolic health, and cognitive performance. Modern indoor lifestyles disconnect many people from natural biological rhythms. Late-night screen exposure further disrupts sleep cycles. Protecting brain health requires respecting these natural systems. Now let us return again to cinnamon itself. One reason cinnamon is so appealing as a daily habit is accessibility. Many health interventions are expensive, but cinnamon is affordable for most people. It is easy to store, easy to use, easy to incorporate into meals, and unlike complicated wellness routines, this habit does not require enormous effort. Simplicity increases consistency. The easier a healthy habit becomes, the more likely people are to maintain it long term. That matters because long-term consistency creates results. Another interesting aspect of cinnamon is its long history. Ancient cultures valued spices not only for flavor, but also for preservation and wellness. Traditional systems of medicine used herbs and spices for centuries. Modern science is now investigating many of these traditional observations through laboratory research and clinical studies. Not every traditional claim proves true, but some natural substances clearly contain biologically active compounds with meaningful effects. Cinnamon appears to be one of them. Now imagine combining several simple supportive habits together. Walking daily, sleeping consistently, reducing ultra-processed foods, managing stress, maintaining social connection, eating fiber-rich foods, strength training, protecting metabolic health, using supportive spices like cinnamon. Each action alone may seem modest, but together they create a profoundly different biological environment. That environment influences inflammation, hormones, blood vessels, mitochondria, neurotransmitters, immune function, brain resilience. One of the biggest problems in modern health culture is the obsession with extremes. People constantly search for miracle cures, drastic diets, or instant transformations, but the human body usually responds best to sustainable patterns. Your brain does not need punishment. It needs nourishment. It needs circulation. It needs restoration. It needs sleep. It needs movement. It needs stable energy. And it needs protection from chronic metabolic stress. This is why tiny habits can become so powerful. They are sustainable. A person may not maintain an extreme protocol forever, but many people can maintain a simple, healthy routine for years. And years matter. The brain ages over decades. So does the cardiovascular system. So does metabolism. Daily patterns shape long-term outcomes. Now let us address another important misconception. Some people assume cognitive decline is completely unavoidable. Certainly aging affects the body. No one remains biologically identical forever. But lifestyle factors strongly influence how the brain ages. Research increasingly shows that physical activity, metabolic health, sleep quality, nutrition, and cardiovascular health all affect cognitive outcomes later in life. In other words, the choices people make every day matter. This should not create fear. It should create empowerment. The goal is not perfection. The goal is support. You do not need to control every variable perfectly. You simply need to move in a healthier direction consistently. That is what preventive health is really about, creating an internal environment that supports resilience. And resilience matters because life itself creates stress. Illnesses happen, aging happens, environmental stressors exist, but a healthier body often adapts more effectively. Now consider the emotional side of cognitive health. Many people fear losing memory more than almost anything else. The ability to recognize loved ones, remember experiences, think clearly, communicate, and remain mentally present is deeply connected to quality of life. Protecting brain health is not only about longevity, it is about preserving independence, connection, personality, and daily function. That is why even small supportive habits deserve attention. And remember, the goal is not obsession. The goal is awareness. Awareness of how deeply lifestyle influences physiology. Awareness that the brain responds to nutrition. Awareness that blood sugar matters. Awareness that inflammation matters. Awareness that sleep and stress influence cognition. When people understand these connections, they often begin making healthier decisions naturally. Now, here is something very practical. If you decide to begin using cinnamon daily, focus on quality. Choose Ceylon cinnamon when possible. Use a small, consistent amount. Pair it with nutrient-dense meals, and avoid turning it into another extreme trend. The internet often exaggerates everything. One day people ignore a food completely, the next day they consume enormous amounts expecting miracles. Balance is important. Human physiology thrives on balance, and balance creates sustainability. You might also notice something psychologically interesting. Healthy rituals reinforce identity. When someone develops small wellness habits, they often begin seeing themselves differently. A person who starts caring for metabolic health may also start walking more. They may sleep earlier. They may drink more water. They may choose healthier foods. One positive action often leads to another. This is how transformation frequently occurs, not through one giant event, but through chains of small, consistent behaviors. Now let us briefly discuss insulin sensitivity more clearly, because this concept is extremely important. Insulin is a hormone that helps move glucose from the bloodstream into cells. When cells become less responsive to insulin, the pancreas must produce more and more of it. This state is called insulin resistance. Over time, insulin resistance is associated with metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, inflammation, fatty liver disease, and potentially cognitive decline. Improving insulin sensitivity may therefore support multiple aspects of health. Exercise improves insulin sensitivity. Sleep improves insulin sensitivity. Weight management improves insulin sensitivity. Reducing excess sugar and processed foods improves insulin sensitivity. And cinnamon may provide supportive effects as part of this larger picture. Again, this does not mean cinnamon replaces healthy living. It supports healthy living. That distinction matters. No supplement or spice can compensate for chronic sleep deprivation, severe inactivity, excessive processed food intake, smoking, or constant stress. But supportive habits layered together may create meaningful benefits. Another fascinating area researchers continue exploring involves mitochondria. Mitochondria are often called the powerhouses of the cell because they generate energy. Brain cells require enormous amounts of energy to function properly. Mitochondrial dysfunction is associated with aging and many chronic diseases. Oxidative stress and inflammation can damage mitochondria over time. Protective lifestyle strategies may help preserve mitochondrial function. Stable blood sugar is important here as well. Large glucose swings create metabolic stress. More stable energy metabolism supports healthier cellular function. Now think about modern society. Many people wake up tired, rush through stressful mornings, consume sugary breakfasts, sit most of the day, experience constant digital stimulation, sleep too little, repeat the cycle again tomorrow. Over time, the body adapts poorly to this environment. Fatigue increases, inflammation rises, mood suffers, metabolism declines, mental clarity worsens. The body sends warning signs long before major disease appears. Brain fog, energy crashes, cravings, poor focus, sleep problems, weight gain. These symptoms are often signals that metabolic systems need support. That is why paying attention early matters. And sometimes the smallest habits become entry points into larger transformation. One person begins walking. Another starts prioritizing sleep. Another replaces sugary snacks with whole foods. Another adds cinnamon to breakfast and becomes more aware of blood sugar balance. Awareness creates momentum. Now there is another reason why simple, food-based approaches are so appealing. They integrate naturally into daily life. A habit that fits easily into existing routines is more likely to continue. This is one reason why sustainable health practices matter more than temporary motivation. Motivation changes, habits remain, and the healthiest people often rely less on willpower and more on systems. They structure their environments to support healthy choices. Healthy foods become convenient, movement becomes routine, sleep becomes protected, stress management becomes intentional, small rituals become automatic. That is how long-term health is built. One routine at a time. Now imagine looking back 10 or 20 years from now. Would your future self benefit from better glucose control today? Better sleep, more movement, less inflammation, healthier blood vessels, reduced metabolic stress? Of course, the body remembers patterns, and prevention is always easier than reversal. That is one reason why conversations about brain health matter so much. People often wait until symptoms become severe before paying attention. But the brain deserves protection long before decline appears. Your daily choices become biological signals. Every meal sends signals. Every night of sleep sends signals. Every stressful reaction sends signals. Every walk sends signals. Every supportive habit sends signals. And over time, those signals shape physiology. Now let us revisit the beauty of simplicity. There is something powerful about realizing that meaningful health support does not always require complexity. Sometimes it begins with a tiny decision, a healthier breakfast, a short walk, turning off screens earlier, breathing deeply, drinking more water, adding 1/8 teaspoon of cinnamon. Simple, affordable, sustainable, and potentially supportive of some of the most important systems involved in healthy aging. This perspective changes how people view wellness. Instead of chasing perfection, they begin building foundations. And foundations matter. Strong foundations support resilience during aging. Strong foundations support energy, mood, focus, circulation, metabolic function, cognitive performance. Now let us be realistic. No lifestyle habit guarantees perfect health. Genetics matter. Environmental exposures matter. Medical conditions matter. But lifestyle still influences outcomes tremendously. And when simple habits carry low risk and potential benefit, they become worthwhile additions to daily life. Cinnamon is one of those habits many people can easily explore. Again, choose Ceylon cinnamon when possible. Use a small amount consistently. Pair it with healthy meals and view it as part of a larger lifestyle focused on metabolic and brain health. Because ultimately, brain protection is not one action. It is a lifestyle that supports circulation, sleep, movement, nutrition, stress resilience, inflammation control, and stable energy metabolism. The wonderful thing is that the body often responds surprisingly well when given consistent support. People frequently underestimate the body's ability to adapt positively. Small improvements in daily habits may create meaningful improvements in energy, focus, mood, and overall well-being. And sometimes those improvements become motivation for even greater positive change. So if there is cinnamon sitting quietly in your kitchen right now, you may begin seeing it differently, not merely as a flavor, but as a symbol, a reminder that tiny repeated actions shape long-term health, a reminder that prevention matters, a reminder that the brain deserves daily care, and a reminder that some of the most powerful health strategies are often the simplest. 1/8 teaspoon, one small habit, one consistent daily choice. Over time, that may help support healthier blood sugar, healthier circulation, lower inflammation, better metabolic balance, and potentially healthier brain aging. Simple things repeated consistently can change the direction of health, not overnight, but gradually, quietly, powerfully, and perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. Real wellness is rarely built through dramatic moments. It is built through ordinary daily choices repeated with consistency, patience, and intention. Protect the brain, support the body, respect sleep, move daily, manage stress, nourish yourself well, and never underestimate the power of small, healthy habits. because the smallest habits, repeated long enough, may eventually become life-changing.